Good evening, everyone. Happy New Month. My name is Peter, and I'm your host for today. Please confirm if you can hear me in the chat box. Oh, Immaculata, thank you. I welcome everyone to class today. Thank you, Hart. I welcome you all. The number in the class is still very low. Chairpersons and party members, please encourage your party members to come to class. Today's class is about the Electoral Act and it's going to be explosive. Please invite your members to come to class. I'm going to read out the bio of our speaker today, the ED. Okay. Oh, the executive is what we're talking about today. All right. So I read the bio. Mr. Kunle Lawal is a distinguished Nigerian political leader, celebrated for his dedication to democratic governance, electoral integrity, and enhancing political literacy. With his extensive experience and commitment, Kunle has significantly shaped Nigeria's political landscape, inspiring a more informed and active citizenry, professional roles and contributions. As the Executive Director of Electoral College, Nigeria, Kunle leads this non-partisan organization in its mission to strengthen democratic processes through education and advocacy. Under his leadership, the Electoral College has become an essential platform for promoting political literacy and civic engagement, especially among young Nigerians. Through structured modules and debates, it provides citizens with critical tools to understand governance and hold leaders accountable. In his role as National Publicity Secretary of the COA Party from 2014 to 2017, he championed intra-party democracy, transparency, and participation. He introduced membership system that fostered inclusivity within the party, demonstrating his dedication to strengthening Nigeria's political parties as democratic institutions. He also ran for the Senate with the Alliance for New Nigeria, ANN, from 2017 to 2019, embodying his commitment to public service and his vision for a progressive Nigeria. Throughout his candidacy, he actively promoted policies focused on the welfare and development of all Nigerians and drafted 49 legislative bills to address critical national issues. His senatorial campaign highlighted his commitment to policy-driven leadership, even as he sought to broaden the national conversation on effective governance. He is also the author of The Candidate, a book in which he shares his insight on leadership and politics. Through his writing, he offers guidance for aspiring leaders and politically engaged citizens, reinforcing the importance of knowledge in effective governance, recognition, and impact. His tireless efforts to advance political literacy, civic participation, and democratic values have earned him widespread recognition. His work has inspired many Nigerians to engage more deeply in the political process, understanding their rights and the responsibilities of their leaders. By fostering political literacy, he has contributed significantly to a more transparent, accountable, and inclusive political system in Nigeria. Through his various roles, he demonstrates a profound commitment to building a democratic culture that serves the needs of all Nigerians, empowering citizens to shape the country's future. Ladies and gentlemen, with clapping ovation and standing ovation, if you may, in the chat box, please make welcome the ED of the Electoral College Nigeria, Mr. Kunle Lawal. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good day, everyone, and it's a pleasure to have you all for our class. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Can you?
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about the Nigerian Electoral Act. But before we engage in that class, I'd like to say something. We've noticed that attendance has dipped a little bit. The present structure of the Electoral College allows us to hold expos of parties accountable. We think that we've given responsibility to the expos and absorb responsibility from other people who participate. So we're introducing a new format, which will be known as the general flashpoint. Now, this can happen in any class at any time and can go on without a plan. So what will happen with the flashpoint is that we take a general attendance at any time in the class. The time wouldn't be known, would be the beginning, won't be at the ending, could be any time. And when that attendance is taken, for anyone who's not in the class, you'll be -1 attendance. For people that are in the class, your attendance is safe, or you'll be given a small star. We believe that student education seems free. We know that most people can't pay for it, and we put quite a lot into it, and it costs quite a lot. That's from each partner, CJID, NED, and the Electoral College. And to see people, negating the fact that we're giving so much information, and you tend to play with it. It's a little reason or a reflection of what we say the electoral illiteracy in Nigeria is high. The Electoral College right now puts electoral illiteracy at 82%. This is why we're doing a lot of work we're doing. But we can only help you if you're ready to help yourself. I know we have the Messiah belief that someone is coming to save. Nobody's coming to save you. I keep saying this a lot. Nobody's coming to save you. But, today we're about to engage in something that is critical to democracy in Nigeria. I'm sure we have people of different faiths in this class, and every faith has its commandments. So today I present to you the commandments of democracy, the Nigerian Electoral Act. Now, the Electoral Act is too cumbersome for us to go over in a whole day. So I pick flashpoints which were changed from the old ones, and then a few parts which are critical to your understanding. And then you can go over the Electoral Act yourself. Do not think this is your last conversation with the Electoral Act. This will be your only class on the Electoral Act, but it will not be your last conversation with the Electoral Act. Because what's going to happen next is your pop quiz or something else will come from the Electoral Act itself, or whatever what we plan to do, what we treat today. These conversations will guide your future when you move into elections in the Electoral College. It will also help dictate where exactly we are headed as a class and be the primal function. So the Electoral Act is the basis of everything we're doing here. It guides, creates laws. It does everything on what we're doing in this class. So first and foremost, I'd like to ask a brief question before we begin the class. And Peter, I'll need your help here. Can one person tell me what they know about the Electoral Act? Not tell me what it's about, it's the law guide.
Again, is it just me?
So anybody, you can raise up your hands if you want to speak. Peter will unmute you. Let's just hear what you think about the Electoral Act. Peter, we can't keep them waiting. I think Alex has raised his hand, so
Alex,
someone should unmute Alex.
Alex, I've asked you to unmute. Please unmute.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so the Electoral Act mandates electronic verification of voters with the BVAS machine on election day.
I didn't get what you said. You said what? Could you repeat yourself, sir?
Okay, so I said the Electoral Act mandates the electronic verification of voters with the BVAS machine on election day.
That's what the
voting.
Electoral College does. Okay. Is this in the class? Lisa here?
I'm not sure.
Is Lisa
Okay,
here?
she's there.
Okay, Peter, Lisa, was the Electoral Act itself shared on the group?
No, it wasn't. I'll share that now.
Okay. Thank you.
Should I take another
Could we have
person?
someone else, Peter?
All right, sir.
Yes. I'll prefer maybe a female. So pick maybe Yvonne or Temitayo.
Okay, Yvonne, ask you to unmute. Please go on.
Right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I would say that the Electoral Act is what what INEC uses to regulate the election process in Nigeria. I don't know if it's Nigeria that you mean, Sha.
Okay, I mean the Nigerian Electoral Act, so of course I'm talking
Okay,
of
yes.
Nigeria as well.
It's what INEC uses to regulate elections in Nigeria and votes. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you very much, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Okay, could we have Temitayo?
Okay, Timothy, I've asked you to unmute. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think the Electoral Act is a set of guidelines that governs how the election, that governs the electoral practices and the elections itself. I think that's what it is.
Thank you very much, Temitayo. We have one more person.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I think the electoral acts. Let me just give two things that is in the electoral act. The electoral act talks about that results should be posted in every polling unit after election has been conducted. Then also the electoral act does not give room for independent candidature.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's have just one more person, Peter. Can randomly pick anybody.
Okay, sir. Akinde Hosanna, I've asked you to unmute.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good
I
evening.
think the Electoral Act is a guide or set of guide that helps in guiding the electoral process, everything that concerns election. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, moving on, we're going to go into the Nigerian Electoral Act now. So now the Electoral Act, in the exercise of powers conferred by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, and the Electoral Act 2022, as amended, the following as contained in it are regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections. These elections include general elections, which are the ones which occur in regular time. That's like we had in February and March 2023. And then by-elections. By-elections are situations or elections in which, let's say a senator died and they have to elect a new senator, like we saw in Lagos East in 2022. That's the by-election. Rerun elections. That's where courts feel the elections weren't done effectively, and the courts have ordered a rerun, or INEC feels some supplementary things were not there and things were handled. There will be a rerun. And then supplementary elections, which means where, of course, some elections were not didn't cover some of the right places, or there were failure in some people being able to vote, or they were disenfranchised. So the regulations and guidelines for the conduct of every election. This means every election is guided by the Electoral Act. It generally means in turn Yeah, and elections, people should stop looking at it. I know someone said something about beavers or something. Now, elections are not guided by when, how would I put it? By voting day. It's from the start, primaries. The electoral covers it. Preceding conventions, pre-conventions, post-conventions, and then finally the elections. So the Electoral Act encompasses all of this and has conversations on all of this as we're going to see. So now we go to the Electoral Act 2022. The first thing it covers is the establishment and functions of INEC generally. Now, this is covered by quite a lot of articles within the Electoral Act. What INEC can do, what INEC cannot do, how INEC is supposed to function, how INEC is not supposed to function. Like I'll give an example. The one that covers that resident electoral commissioners cannot be partisan, though this has been broken a few times. We're not arguing about the breaks and whatever, but that is the situation and the functions of INEC. So critically, INEC came out in 2023 and told you that they were going to electronically transmit elections in Nigeria. Now, this sounds fine. And it was a welcome development since INEC said it. But when INEC didn't do it in 2023, a lot of people came against INEC. But the Electoral Act clearly states, as that's the Electoral Act 2022, as amended, clearly states that INEC resolves the responsibility and powers to transmit elections as INEC deems fit, as it deems fit. So INEC broke a moral obligation to Nigerians, but not a legal obligation to Nigerians. And, we get this confusion up and down. Anyway, I was just telling you about the establishment and functions of INEC. So now it also covers Nigerian registration of voters and voter registration, which means how Nigerians, what age you can register voters, where and when, duration of registration, and etc. It also covers the procedure of elections, meaning how elections are going to go. Meaning, is it going to be presidential election first, then gubernatorial, then state house of assembly? Or is it going to be governors first? This thing next, or whatever format. Anyway, whatever the format is, the Electoral Act covers it and provides guidelines for such. It also critically covers political parties. Now, political parties are expansive, as we have clearly stated in class, or we clearly would know, or we would learn now. There are 18 political parties in Nigeria. It covers how they operate, they pick their exco, handle their conventions, and then go ahead, proceed into the elections and how they act during elections. One critical thing that the Electoral Act covers also are electoral offenses. Now, we can morally argue a lot of conversations. We can morally say, this isn't right. We can morally say, this is wrong. We can morally say, we don't think this is good. But without knowledge of offenses under the Electoral Act, it will mean we are just speaking from an emotional perspective. Because this one part argues with one set of people who support a particular candidate or who think about something will argue that this is right. Another side will say this is wrong. And depending on where you stand or you look at it, if you're not looking at the offenses according to the Electoral Act, or you don't understand the offenses according to the Electoral Act, then it means you clearly will not understand. You clearly will be arguing emotionally without conversations. So now, preceding the Electoral Act 2022, the old Electoral Act was clear on a few things, but there were amendments in 2022 Electoral Act which changed the course of elections in Nigeria. And these key amendments made the situation a little better, or how would I put it, a little tolerable, closer to a more or less stable democracy. One of them was financial independence to the independent National Electoral Commission, which is INEC. Now, the new act establishes the INEC fund, wherein payments from the federal government investments wherein payments from the federal government investments made from the fund and other aids and grants shall be paid to enable INEC, the commission, perform its functions. Now, INEC receives quite a lot of funding from the European Union, from the African Union, receives quite a lot of things, and then from Nigeria itself, who's conducting the election. So furthermore, the Act stipulates that the election funds due to the commission for any general election are to be released not later than 1 year before the next general election. So if let's say the election is February 28, 2027, it means that by February 28, 2026, all funds must be within INEC coffers. Now, this provision grants financial autonomy to the commission as it may now receive funds for the conduct of elections directly as opposed to getting funds subsequent to vetting by the Ministry of Finance as provided by the former act. Now, most people say financial independence. Haven't they always been like this? Haven't they always been like that? I don't know if any of you remember 2019, but let's go over what happened in 2019. Now, sometime in 2019, elections were to hold sometime in mid-February. I remember it was even, they nicknamed the election. Some people called it Fair Buhari or, Valentine or whatever. And there was a lot of commotion about it. And then elections were postponed at night. If I remember, 1 o'clock at night. I was a candidate in that election, so you could imagine how much it hurts me. You are giving money out to people that were going to participate in polling as polling agents, to help oversee for their lunch and etc. And to cover the number of polling units, which are massive. You were running for something. If you're running for something like Senate, which is as high as I was running, and it meant I had a lot of things to cover up. And then sometime around 12:01, people have traveled to their villages. INEC says we can't conduct the election. This is because of late funds received by INEC preceding that time. And it ended up pushing elections 2 weeks back. Give or take, I'll say it was an advantage for those in power at the time because those who were running against them didn't have the funds to keep up, which I would say disenfranchised a few. So the elections could have gone either way, but this action disenfranchised them. Now it was to this issue that was covered. Now, extension of time frame for publication of election notice. Now, the new act provides that the commission shall not later than 360 days before the day appointed for holding an election under this act, publish a notice in each state of the Federation and the FCT, stating the date of election and appointing the place at which nomination papers are to be delivered. This notice is to be published in each constituency in respect of which an election is to be held. This is contrast to the provisions of the erstwhile Electoral Act, which provided that the commission should publish this notice no later than 90 days before the date of the election. The effect of this extension of time is to give the commission more time to prepare for the election and also give the political parties no excuse as regards the candidacy than the partisan and propaganda politics that comes with choosing a candidate and preparing for a campaign. However, for by-elections, the new act retains the same provision as the old act, as the time frame for publishing a notice stating the date of elections is 14 days. Now, encouragement of early party primaries. I'm sure if you voted in 2019, you would know that party primaries were held. I think party primaries didn't finish. I think deadline for party primaries was sometime last week of October. I can't remember clearly. I remember there was a rush for me to even complete my primaries. I think I completed my primaries a day before the deadline. That used to be the situation in Nigeria till, this change with this. So under the new act, political parties are mandated to submit the list of their sponsored candidates who have emerged from valid primaries conducted by the party not less than 180 days before the date appointed for a general election. Now, this is contrast to the former act, which prescribed that this submission should be done not less than 60 days before the date of general elections. The change in the time frame to submit names of party candidates from 60 to 180 days makes it compulsory for parties to conduct their primaries early enough to meet up with the submission of their list of candidates at least 180 days before the general election. Now, of course, there's an extension of time frame for campaigns by political parties, as we saw in 2023. It's quite a long time. The new act provides that the period of campaigning in public by every political party shall commence 150 days before polling day and end 24 hours prior to that day. This is different from the provisions of the former acts, which prescribe that campaign shall commence 90 days prior to polling day and end 24 hours prior to that day. The impact of this provision is the extended time given to political parties to disseminate their campaign messages to the populace and the corresponding extended time for the electorate to decide what party and candidate will receive their votes. So it's a welcome thing, moving this forward. But have we taken advantage of it? I don't think we really, because we had that extension in 2023, and most parties just, how do I put it, went to smithereens with it. As in, you're saying most parties weren't focused enough with it. Spend most of their campaign time arguing, debating, spending so much time on disinformation and misinformation. But in the end, I don't think it paid. But sometimes we need to understand this critical thing that elections, even though not perfect, if the laws are straightened out early enough, we might not see it in the first cycle, which, this amendment to the first election was 2023. Subsequently, 2027, 2031, 2035, 2031, 2035, we might be able to get a semblance of normalcy. Now, also amended was the provision of the Central Electronic Voter Database. Now, the new act provides that the Commission shall keep the register of voters at its national headquarters in other locations, provided that the register shall be kept in electronic format in a central database, in addition to being kept in manual or hard copy. Now, under the former act, this register was kept only in manual or hard copy format. Now, this provision is laudable as it will promote transparency and effectiveness in the Commission's record keeping and in tracking the number of registered voters who will be voting in the upcoming elections, thereby curbing illegal voting by non-registered voters. So that's true. We're at that point, and I'll tell you that it's kind of hard these days to rig and, just bring in. That's why I always tell people, the only time an election can be rigged is when you decide to sit down at home. So all the Peters that are choosing to sit down at home, they use you to rig because you sat down at home. No offense to the name Peter, I'm just saying there's Peter Otegbe, there's also Peter Oluwabusayo from us. Just seeing plenty Peters. So I used Peter, which was the name that just came to my head easily. So now there's a revision in the definition of overvoting. Now, under the new act, number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds, if that should exceed the number of accredited voters in that polling unit, the presiding officer shall cancel the results of the election in the unit. Number of accredited voters refers to the number of intending voters accredited to vote in an election on the election day. Under the former act, it is when the number of votes cast in an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of registered voters in that polling unit. That's when the presiding officer shall cancel the results of the election in that polling unit. So before, if there are 1,000 people voting in Wuse 2, let's say zone 3, the polling unit is zone 3 secondary school, GSS Wuse. If there are 1,000 voters there, the old act, as long as the voters do not reach 1,000, they are fine. The new act, if you accredit 500 people and 600 people vote, null and void. So based on provisions on new act, overvoting would mean where votes are cast at the polling exceed the number of accredited voters and not the number of registered voters as provided by the former election. But the interesting amendment is also the INEC's power of review. Now, under the new act, INEC has the power to review the final decision of the returning officer in respect of questions of unmarked ballot papers, rejected ballot papers, declaration of scores of candidates, and the return of a candidate within 7 days of the decision. and returned where the declaration was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law and guidelines for the elections. Now, under the provisions of the former act, the decision of the returning officer was only subject to review by an election tribunal or court. However, it appears that under the new act, the election tribunal or court can still review the returning officer's decision, but the act is unclear as to whether it is to be done after INEC's review or can replace the INEC review totally. It is the writer's view that this should be after INEC's review, meaning it's my view, not saying it's law. Now, it is the exclusion of political appointees, from acting as voting delegates or aspirants. Now, Section 84(12) of the new act stipulates that no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress of any political party. For the purpose of the nomination of candidates for any election, this means that political appointees must relinquish their positions before they can be eligible to participate in an electoral process, either as a candidate or a delegate. Now, we saw this happen in 2023 a lot. A lot of the president's essays and etc. wanted to go into office and they had to resign. Though some of them were reinstated when they lost, but that's not the point. While you were running, you could not have that position. Number 9, death of electoral candidates. Now, the death of a candidate in elections had generated a lot of bickering among political parties and politicians in the past. Under the former act, leading to cases in our courts. To cure some of the mischief in the former act, the new act provides that where before the commencement of a poll, a candidate dies, the election shall be postponed and shall commence within 14 days of the candidate's death. Where a candidate dies after the polls, but before announcement of final winner and announcement of final results, the implication is that the election will be suspended for not more than 21 days. Where the election is for a legislative house position, the election shall start afresh, and the political party whose candidate died may, if it intends to continue to participate in the election, conduct a free primary within 14 days of the death of the candidate and submit the name of the new candidate to the commission to replace the dead candidates. For gubernatorial, and this gets interesting, for gubernatorial, presidential, and FCT area council elections, the running mate shall continue with the election as the new candidate and nominate a new running mate. Now, there are also technological changes that occurred in 2022, like under the new act, the use of electronic devices, smart card readers, electronic voting machines, and other technological devices are allowed in the accreditation process for voters and in the general conduct of elections. Furthermore, the new act provides for electronic transmission of results in accordance of the procedure determined by the Commission. Now, this is key. I'll read it again. Furthermore, the new act provides for electronic transmission of election results in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission. Indirectly, INEC determines this. That means what kind of procedure is up to INEC. But electronic transmission is legal. Now, the key policy hot points for clarity. Diaspora funding. Now, there's a lot of conversation around diaspora funding in during elections. There's a lot of arguments. I remember there was one very strong one, and I think it was Labour Party at the time. Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now. We ain't hear you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you now. We weren't hearing you
Oh,
before.
okay. Where did you stop hearing me?
You wanted to
I
talk
don't know what
about
happened.
diaspora
Diaspora.
funding, about
Okay,
Labour
then it
Party.
went off.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. My internet's fluctuating a little bit. I'm trying to switch the internet I'm using. So if you
All
guys
right.
can just give me like a 15 or 20 seconds, I'll sort that out.
All
I
right.
just noticed I wasn't seeing the Zoom again. I even thought it was disconnected, but it didn't disconnect, but I wasn't seeing it again. Just
All
give
right.
me 15 or 20 seconds. Okay, it should be a little stable now. So you can see and hear me clearly.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, so diaspora funding was an issue in the 2020 elections. It was Labour Party, and I remember the conversation was that Labour Party wanted the party to receive funds coming from abroad. Now, the Electoral Act clearly states that no party in Nigeria is allowed to receive funds from abroad. Now, you want to ask why? I'll tell you, any party receiving funding from abroad, Nigeria can be controlled because parties are the vehicle to office, meaning Nigeria can be controlled dependent on who enters. So what is allowed by the Electoral Act is candidates that can be funded from abroad, not political parties. And this was a very great argument. And remember, when we had this conversation in 2023 on TV, and some people were like, no, because you hate Labour Party. I don't hate Labour Party. Neither do I hate any other party. But the law is law. It also had hit PDP earlier. It had hit APC in the 2015 elections, the same issue. Now, there are also campaign limits for candidates. Now, these campaign limits are in the Electoral Act. Now, I think your assignment for next week will revolve around this. So, there are campaign limits for candidates. Like the president cannot exceed, if I'm right, 10 billion or 5 billion. I'm not sure which number it is. I'll need to look at it. The governors cannot exceed about 200 million. But we all break it. And, it gets so funny that when we talk about autonomy of local government elections, a lot of people doing hyper local government elections, even though we are yet to understand how, like, for example, Kaduna State has 465 councillorship seats, and one party won the whole 465. I was at a conference this week, and I stated clearly, and the head of Kaduna State Electoral Commission was next to me. She was next to me, and she was talking about how whatever, they were transparent elections, though people didn't come out, they delivered. And I told her it is undemocratic for there to be 495 seats and a party won all. And I think I said something which, was used as a quote. In any election in which this occurs, the credibility of that election must now be questioned. And that's the half of it. That's the truth of it. So there are campaign limits for candidates. But now, if I ask Nigerians whether they even knew there was the existence of campaign limits, nobody cared. So I would say there are laws to protect a lot of things that we do in Nigeria, but we have refused to adapt those laws or try to put in those laws so that these things will happen. Lisa, why is your hand up? Hello, Lisa.
Maybe it's an error, sir. Maybe it's a mistake.
So there are also methods of primaries which
Okay, no, I was just trying to indicate so I could make co-host so that in case you need my attention.
Oh,
okay, you're not co-host. What happened that you went out?
Yeah, the network. Sorry.
Okay, you've been made co-host. So there are methods of primaries, and I believe that these methods of primaries, people have gone through them. Consensus, direct, and indirect. I believe in your political party class you did that. And your assignments, you guys must have gone through that. So it's now mode of campaign engagement by candidates. Now, there are many clauses. I'll give an example. Like state media is not supposed to promote any candidates. Neither does state apparatus. This is a key fundamental line in the Electoral Act, meaning a governor cannot use his fleet of cars because they carry the governor plates, because they're state apparatus, to support himself or campaign himself in any parameter. Yes, the governor, if his campaign wants to use state structure, they should pay for the car. And that's how it is in other countries. If the president is going to fly the presidential jet on a campaign move, his campaign has to pay for the jet. But hello, by Nigeria, the people don't know, politicians don't know, the parties don't know, and we all don't know. So we all end up being, you know, now, end up being the Nigeria that we are. And even the kind of language being used in campaigns, there's supposed to be no assault, no wrong language. But we still find ourselves doing it. Now, adherence to rules by political parties. I'm going to say something. Within the Electoral Act lies a clause. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 9295. I can't remember. But clearly states something. The preceding any, and I think I've said this in the class, preceding any convention or primaries, every party must submit the electronic and the hard copy of its registered members. Guess how many parties met that criteria in 2023? Can anybody in the class tell me? Just raise up your hand. Peter, unmute them when they raise up their hands. Let's do this quickly now. Peter, unmute Peter. Oh,
Peter, I
wow.
think
Peter,
you want to
unmute
speak.
Peter.
I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Edie. I think the political parties that submitted their party registers are not up to 30% of the political parties we have in Nigeria.
30%. How many political parties do we have in Nigeria, sir?
I don't know. I don't know all, because I know there's a
Peter, you
party.
don't know. Peter, you don't know all, and you are in this class. I've said that number multiple times.
Oh, some people are saying it.
This is the last time I'm going to say there are 18 registered political parties in Nigeria, and
Okay,
there were
sir,
18 parties that participated in
parties.
So if you
Thank you.
say 30%, so if you say 30%, you are saying approximately 5 or 6 political parties are engaged.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, did I say 5 or 6? Yeah, about 5. 5, not up to 6. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any contradicting answer? Thank you, Peter.
You can also drop your answer in the chat box if you cannot answer.
No, that would take a longer time. Alaka Akim, cannot mention Peter.
Okay. I'll ask you to unmute. Please go on.
Good afternoon, Saidi.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. I think none of the political parties submitted the list of their registered members as at 2023, sir. None.
Thank you very much, Alaka. And I said this in another class, and I'm happy you're listening. So thank you very much, Alaka. None of the political parties in Nigeria, none of the 18 met this criteria. which is grounds for even making every
I think his network is messing up again. Please bear with us. Please bear with us while we get him back on line. I think his network is crappy now. DED, ma, are you there, ma?
Yes, I am.
I think his network is crappy. If you can reach him, let's know.
All right.
Okay, he's back now. I've made him the host. ED,
I
sir.
was wondering, you guys, well done. I was wondering how you guys didn't notice I was back. You were talking about me and I was back already.
I was even searching for your name. I didn't see it. So we didn't know you were back.
You are searching for me, come on. Stop for me. Okay, so 88-1.
All right.
So these are flaws. So the maximum election. So stipulated by subsections 2 to 7. Now, the maximum election expenses to be incurred by a candidate at the presidential election shall not exceed 5 billion. I was even saying 10. The maximum amount, not exceptional expenses, to be incurred by a candidate in respect of governorship elections shall not exceed 1 billion. The maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate in respect of senatorial and House of Rep seats shall not exceed 170 million respectively. In the State House of Assembly election, the maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 30 million. In the case of chairmanship election to an area council and local government, maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 30 million. In the case of councilorship election to area council, the maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 5 million. No individual or entity shall donate to a candidate more than 50 million naira. Is this the part where all of you have heart attack right now? Because you now realize, wow, it's not that Nigeria doesn't have laws. Like I've said earlier, if we do not know the laws of this country, we're not going to have a country. You have to know the laws to be able to hold people accountable. So it's massive. Local government elections forms are as high as 5 million. Hello, please. I've said this to the moderators. I don't know why I have to say this again. I don't know what to say, whether you guys have to put this in your meeting. There's no need to instruct the Zoom to record the classes because classes are streamed to YouTube. Yet every class interrupt. We try and stream to the Zoom these things. I've written it on your group that you guys should stop it. You guys are still keeping it up. So next slide. 92.1. Now, a political campaign or slogan shall not be tainted with abusive language, directly or indirectly, likely to injure religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. Abusive, intemperate, slanderous, or base language or insinuations or innuendos designed or likely to provoke violent reaction or emotions shall not be employed or used in political campaigns. This is critical because every party is guilty of it. 95.1. A candidate and his or her party shall campaign for elections in accordance with such rules and regulations that may be determined by the Commission. 2. 95.2 is key. State apparatus, including media, shall not be employed to the advantage or disadvantage of any political party or candidate in an election. TVC, APC, AIT, PDP, Arise TV, Labour Party. Sounds nice, right? It's wrong. But let me even expand on state apparatus. Last elections, the APC made a minister of state a campaign spokesman. State apparatus, election. Now you want to argue, if he were an elected person, you can campaign. Appointed. So in states like Cross River, where the SCs will climb and kill themselves because of election, any Lagosian SA media that didn't want you to hear a word because of Sanwo-Olu, triple X, so I gave it triple X. And then for every person that was running for office and was giving out palliatives that were meant for the state to support his campaign, whether it's in Imo, it's in Abia. And for the greats, Wikis, Ubaras, and etc., that use state might I don't need to say wrong, you know what I mean. Now, this is key. Media time shall be allocated equally among political parties or candidates at similar hours of the day. They will give APC, PDP, and Labour Party 9 o'clock. They will give SDP, NNPP, and others 2 a.m. when nobody's watching. So you see your Arise TV channels and whatever, they are all culpable. Join Plus TV, all of them culpable. Now, 84 says no political party appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate. We've gone through that. 9.6. The registration of voters, updating and revision of the register of voters under this section shall stop not later than 90 days before any election covered by this act. The election, INEC went as high as 180 days. A few of us in the CSO space were complaining, you refuse to register anybody. 90 days, 3 months. So even INEC broke those. But do you know why they could break it? You guys should have the answer by now. Nigerians do not know. The third was an emotional response, not understanding that the laws that created INEC were the laws that stated it shouldn't be more than, it should be 3 months to an election. But we do not know again. We celebrate the fact we do not know. Now, the Electoral Act 2022 is a laudable effort to keep the Nigerian electoral process up to standard with other democratic countries all over the world. More so, the country, as it approached, has done 2023 elections, it has only hoped that the provisions of this act are judiciously implemented to enable Nigerians to enjoy the exercise of their political franchise before and after the 2023 elections. The final frontier belongs to the media space, which are tasked with the responsibility of educating the electorate as the fourth estate. And what is stays under the bridge? I believe that You can learn more about Asake than you can learn about the Electoral College on Nigerian TV. That's another conversation. So I'd like to thank you all for this. The Electoral Act is one of the most interesting things we have available in Nigeria. For me, we have just gone over it in a bit. I didn't want the class to be long, it's technical. The Electoral Act remains law, so Kule cannot impute himself into it. So
The network again. Please bear with us. I think the network is terrible this evening.
okay, then so I'm back.
All right. So
So
we'll go
thank you,
into
everyone. Mm.
do we go into the Q&A now, sir?
Is that?
So do we go into the Q&A, the question and answer now, sir?
Yes, you can. I'm sorry, my laptop is fluctuating between networks. I don't know that there's fluctuation between the network. So yeah, of course, you can go into that.
It's all right. So as usual, we take one question from hands raised and then another from the chat box. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. Peter, we start from you. I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, can we then say that no political, yes, according to the election now, no political party meets the standard of Electoral Act? And why is it so difficult for the INEC to punish political parties that did not meet the prerequisites that they lay down for them, the guidelines they lay down for them?
So you say, can you now say? I think when you read, you can make your own deductions. I'm not entitled to showing my own deductions on you, but it's written in black and white. You can clearly see what it is. But what's most critical is that if you read the Electoral Act, you find so many laws. Do you understand? But here's the catch. The National Assembly, who created these laws, did something even naughtier. So these laws all exist. So if I take Peter today, for example, to court, the first thing my lawyer is going to do on campaign funds or breaking the Electoral Act or whatever, and INEC, first thing you're going to say is that the police does not have jurisdiction, neither does anybody. Nobody has jurisdiction, but the laws are there. So it's not that you're arrested by the police, you cannot be arrested by anyone, but the laws are there that these are against the law in Nigeria. So you're against the law, but who is prosecuting? No grounds, no jurisdiction. It's not left to the police to prosecute such offenses. INEC can prosecute electoral offenses, but when it comes to campaign offenses, it's kind of silent. So you get to ask yourself the real question: what is this a setup? Did they put these laws knowing that nobody will be able to handle them? So those are the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves. And therein lies the biggest problems we have in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. We take Lekki Mele next. Lekki, I've asked you to unmute. Please go on.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my question is this. We've seen the Electoral Act, which is awesome. But how do we as citizens now, checkmate the INEC? I remember in 2019, when I was a state party agent, and at the Situation Room, there was one of the candidates that they scored him 0. And we were like, this candidate voted for himself, his family voted, and INEC is giving him 0 in that very record. So how do we now checkmate them? The INEC, who is responsible for checkmating the INEC itself? Thank you, sir.
I'll tell you something. If Nigerians had read the Electoral Act before primary, when the first party did primaries, and if I'm right, I think it was PDP that first did its primaries. If you said no, they didn't meet convention and primaries by submitting entire list of their registered members, the primary is null and void. INEC would have punished and held. Stop trying to hold INEC responsible. The people you are really supposed to hold responsible are the parties. Laws are there, and people are in those parties. INEC is not the person to hold responsible, and that is key to all of this. But if we start to say no, I want to hold INEC responsible, you see, that's already showing that you have not paid attention to what exactly should be. You are not focusing on where the law is actually pushing you towards. So the law is not about INEC. The law is more about you, the citizen, understanding what needs to be done. So it's always a funny conversation, and it's always something that, we're always saying we want to hold INEC responsible. Yes, you can challenge INEC, but I'm not saying you can't. But who you are really supposed to challenge are the political parties. The atrocities are not really committed by INEC. They are committed by the political parties. And if somebody wrote 0 on behalf of INEC, I think it's a case you could report, because that's susceptibility of INEC itself to the elections entirely. But that would have been left for you to report. And I don't think you did. You reported that. Or did you? You see there?
Yes, I didn't report, sir.
So if you didn't report, why didn't you add your own 25? Because not reporting. No. Don't absolve yourself. Not reporting is the same thing as writing. It's law. We have lawyers, If you see a crime, and you don't say anything about it, you're an accessory. Anyway, thank you. Next question, please.
Thank you, sir. I will take this question from the chat box, sir, from Aminu Bako. It says
Aminu Bako.
Aminu Bako Jr. The last FCT election was not conducted with 2022 Electoral Act, but which stipulates 4-year tenure of office. But now, after the election, the Electoral Act was used as a basis for tenure elongation. Is this right in the eyes of the law?
Who elongated the tenure of chairman in Abuja? Because I don't think that. Where is Aminu? Let Aminu answer that question. Who elongated the tenure?
Give your hand so that you'll meet you, please. I've asked you to unmute. Aminu Bako. We can't hear you if you are there. Network at it again. Please bear with us.
Okay. So I believe elections were conducted by INEC in um in um
FCT.
FCT. And if I remember, the APC didn't do too well in the FCT during the chairmanship elections. So I don't know which tenure elongation is discussing.
All right, sir. Should we take another question now?
Yeah,
I'll
let's
take
move to
one
another
chat
question.
box now again. From Mustafa Muhammad. Says, good evening, sir. My question is, how do authorities check amounts spent
How do I
by
can't share it, Peter?
electioneering? Can you hear me, sir?
How can? Hmm?
My question is, how do the authorities check amounts spent by parties during electioneering process?
Why do you think it's only authorities? Are you not checking? When Wike was buying 100 buses and putting them in Hilton for PDP primaries, is he hiding the price of the buses? Must you wait for someone else, one authority to do it? What's wrong with you saying Wike has broken the number of the finance available? Or if you see Peter Obi, they donated 100 million. Yes, sorry, they donated 5.6 billion. It's fine. Or if one governor, or when somebody said Emilokon now gave Emilokon 6 billion to run for office, is that not exceeding campaign this thing? Which authority are you waiting for again? I don't understand. Nigerians, the answer is here. You'll be looking for somebody else. You want me to come at you? Or Nigeria is a complex situation. We agree. But don't be looking for who is to do the work. You, what are you doing? What do you want me to answer? Oh, it's Nigerian police. Oh, then we'll say Nigerian police. Or say the FCC. Nah, yeah. The FCC guy is even corrupt. Government has bought him. That's the kind of class you came for, isn't it? That's the kind of class most of you came for. It's not gonna happen. Not in the electoral college. We'll tell you the truth. So all of us are liable, including myself, that knows. We're all liable for shutting up. We're all accessories for keeping quiet.
Thank you, sir. We'll take one more question from the chat box before going back to the audience. This one is from Abdulhakim Mustafa. Says, what measures are in place under the Electoral Act to curb voter suppression or disenfranchisement?
Say the electoral act was shared, I mean. It was shared, right? They shared it to the class. Lisa shared it to the class. Lisa there.
Yeah, yes, DED said she's shared it. I don't know. DED, ma, are you there, ma? Okay, somebody's
Okay, Gudan
responding
said
back
it in the class.
there. Okay, they can confirm that it was shared.
Yeah, so it was shared. So it clearly states that it is clearly stipulated there. I don't want to state the exact clauses because it's off the top of my head, and it's law. I'd rather not state what. So it'd be nice for you to go through the Electoral Act. It's marked. You see everywhere, voter super electoral offenses, everything's written there. Go through it. It's an interesting read. And you better go through it because I'm going to be giving an assignment on it. And these ones will be your first individual assignment. So I need to see what you people have learned.
All right, sir. So we take Charity from the audience now. Charity, I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Good evening, Edie. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the session today. Very informative. My question is this.
Charity.
Yes, so you spoke about a candidate dying. Is it before or after election? But I didn't get that very well. But what I want to know is about a candidate maybe dying immediately after election. what will be done? And then my second question is there a like a stipulated time for the review of the Electoral Act? Then my third question is this.
Sorry,
If
it's only you. Then I'll
yes,
try
sir.
to slow down.
All
I'll
right, sir.
forget. First and foremost, you are not paying attention in class. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you because I read it. So if the candidate dies after the elections, but before the candidate is sworn in. Are you hearing? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, but before the candidate is sworn in, a fresh election will be called for and there'll be a rerun, I think. I need to look at these things, law. I forget it sometimes. There's a lot of things in my head. So I would say, you know what, let me not make mistakes because there are three different ways it happens. Take the Electoral Act, look at it, and then have the conversation. Okay?
All right, sir. Then is there a stipulated time for the review of the Electoral Act?
I don't know. Stipulated time how?
Like maybe is it stated in the Electoral Act that there's call for maybe a review of the entire act after certain years?
That will make it a draconian law now. In a democracy, you can
Okay.
review any law at any time.
All right, sir.
Okay.
I think I'll just stop here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Charity.
All right, Favor next. Favor, I'll ask you to unmute. Please go ahead. Favor, are you there?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Favor.
Yeah, well done, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for that lecture. I just want to ask a question. You know, while you were answering one of the guys that said he discovered when he was electoral agent that there was some hanky-panky and he couldn't do anything. Now, in 2023 election, I happened to be an electoral, I did election monitoring. So I monitored Nasarawa State. And I must tell you that the local government where I was, I discovered a lot of things were wrong. Now, knowing the truth or knowing the laws or knowing how it goes, I couldn't really speak. I'm telling you, even though things were wrong, I couldn't really speak out. Why? Because when I check the scenario, when I check my vicinity, I noticed that even my life was at stake. So at that point, I just have to hold back. Now, when we find ourselves in this situation, because sometimes, even when you want to report this issue, the people you report it to happen to be the one that will be threatening you. So, sir, how do we come out of this? Because if we have this kind of electoral act that guides us, and it's as if nothing is happening, somebody like me that I'm supposed to be a neutral person, but I couldn't speak. I was scared. It was all over me. So in this scenario, what can one do? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Favor. Favor, how many times have you monitored the elections?
Two times.
Two times, 2019 and 2023, right?
Yes.
You don't have to report it immediately, especially when your life is threatened. But there are lots of avenues in which you can state if you have the facts and figures where and where. All you need to do is remember it and then put it forward to the right channels. Nobody will mention your name. Nobody will say something happened or whatever. Nobody will put you under any pressure. If this information was put to the right channels, I can tell you that a lot of action will be taken over it. But it hasn't. I don't encourage you to speak now. I've been monitoring in 2023. And I had quite a position, and I went around Lagos. I'll tell people, People say, the Lagos elections were so bad, did that, rigging. I'll tell you something. Every election preceding 2023 in Lagos had a fault. Lagos has about 10,000 something polling units. Every issue in Lagos preceding 2023 was over 1,000 polling unit issues. That's polling units with issues and fracas and mayhem or disparities. In 2023, I worked within that system. I won't tell you as what. And the number that came out 2023 was 316. Issues report 316, about 316 to 312 polling units. Those are the issues that were those were what were issues there. So would you say Lagos has dropped or it has come down? It has come down. You won't perfectly, one person can't change the entire world. But because one person was key within monitoring for Lagos and had quite a high position within that system, that was curbed down to that. And let's be honest, our elections I will not say they're better, but if you knew what Nigeria was in elections, say 2007. Now I'm going to quickly tell you this, Favor. Are you aware that as of the 2007 elections, we don't even have credible numbers for 2007 elections? This is the most rigged elections in Nigerian history. Even the president that came in said it. They just said this person won. I just wrote numbers. How the numbers occurred, nobody even knows. It was a disaster. Yes, there's a lot of problems right now. It's going to get better. A lot of us are working for it to get better. But while it is happening, I can tell you, like in every country in the world, the politicians are working in the opposite direction, trying to improve their own skills at doing it. So I will not advise you in a polling unit to state that thing. When I said, why did you not report? And I was talking to him, it wasn't that he should report at that moment. No. Maybe I should have elaborated. It is that he should make relevant information known to the right people, like to electoral college, to code, to not budget, to enough people who work within that system. And something would have been done. A lot of us pay attention to such flashpoints to ensure that, elections are improved within those places. So, Favor, we admire your courage for working for Nigeria, but it's how to do it. You're looking at it initially. So I hope you've learned from what I was able to say and see whether, you could put those things into action. And now you're in the college, you can always write it on your this thing group. This will happen, this will happen, this will happen. ED is always part of monitoring, and ED will note it. And trust me, I'll take it to the right place.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to Favor for her service. So we have one hand left. I think this is going to be the last question. So Crowder Ayuba, I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead. Crowder Ayuba.
Hello, sir.
Good day, Crowder.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Yeah, my question is almost similar to what Favor has asked, because I am from National State also, and I am from Akwanga local government. What she says, right?
There's a lot of noise where you are. Almost deafening. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now singularly. Yeah, I can hear you.
What I say is that the question that Favor asks is almost the same thing what happened to me. Up to today, as I was talking to you, I doesn't work freely because of what happened in the election where I was, because I serve as a returning agent for one political party. Because what happened is there was a particular, if Electoral Act has governed the election in Nigeria like this, there is a particular traditional rulers who second-handedly took election voter sheet to record all it in favor of his own political party. And I raised issue on it. I wrote petition to the INEC in the collection center. I wrote to the police, and it has led to a threat of light up to today as I'm talking to you. Going to Akwanga, it doesn't work freely because of this. So in this case, how can we handle it to make Nigeria electoral work better as Nigeria citizen who want Nigeria to be better? Thank you. That is my question, sir.
Kada, thank you very much. And I'm sorry with what happened to you. But Kada, I don't know how people want me to answer questions. I've already answered what you're saying with favor. And I've made it clear. You might not be able to report to the police because sometimes politicians have been infiltrated. You also might not be able to report to INEC, also infiltrated a little bit. I'm not saying totally. But here's the conversation. There are a lot of CSOs that are not infiltrated, where your name will not even be mentioned anywhere. It will be, they know it's our work. So this data we would use and say so place and so tradition. And we have the power to say it. We have the media to say it. We have the backing to say it. And when we do that, trust me, how would I put it? Ego hot for that traditional ruler. Ego hot. So I don't. I think you've used. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you use the predictable channels, which are or how would I put it? Which could be challenged, but I just wish you would do something, with the way I explained it, get in touch with, the right TSOs or whatever that are concerned with these things, and we can talk about these flashpoints. It doesn't take anything from me. I have a lot of time on channels. I have a lot of time on different TV stations. It doesn't take anything for me to say in Akwanga and this particular traditional ruler said this, or write it out in an opinion piece. Trust me, they're going to police is going to look into him because of who we are. We built that credibility. So as long as I'm sure that is what happened, it will happen. But you have to trust the process. And as hard as it is, the way you followed puts your life at risk. I've been in elections and things within elections in Nigeria since I'm about 2006. So I understand what you're talking about, but you must adapt to the Nigerian situation. Sorry about that, but thank you very much for your service to Brother Ayuba.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Edie. I think we have come to the end of any other question.
No, you
Okay,
have a question, Peter.
Okay, Benjamin. I'm just seeing your hand. Forgive me. I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead.
All right, good evening, ED. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Benjamin.
So I want to just buttress on that question they just asked now. What to give those reports, like you said, you will need some evidences, which most times when it comes in a pictorial format or graphics, or you've kind of captured the moment, it makes it more credible and authentic. And now you are in a situation whereby your life is at stake if you behave in a manner that is not in line with
Benjamin,
what they want.
Benjamin.
Yes, sir.
I don't know why you guys, I don't know, this class does it. You repeat the same questions in different circles. Let me clearly state it. We also understand that in such situations, your life is threatened. If you think we cannot juxtapose the truth by finding out what exactly was scored by this party, what was scored by this party across the normal rating of last elections and 2 elections back, and then calculate that with the present growth of the community, then cross-reference that number, and you're underestimating the math we actually do. So we don't need your pictures. Just tell us what happened. We'll find the way. We'll look at the delay because we have the time for results to be collated from that place. If there was any delay, most times there's rigging. There's massive delay in collation from a particular position. So delay enhances delay. Most of the time, when collation is done very late, trust me, there's rigging. It's already the first thing. So we'll check the time results were collated from that place. We already know. Then we just need to study the 1+1, and the rest is simple. So I don't want to continue answering this question. I've asked it in 3 different formats. I've answered it in 3 different ways.
All right. Thank you, Edie. I think we've exhausted all questions at this point. Edie, I don't know if there's any announcement or anything. Or call it an evening. DED, ma.
Yes, please.
I said, I don't know if you have any announcements before we
Oh,
call
there
it
are
an
none.
evening.
There are none. Thank you so much, Edie. It's been an insightful class as usual.
Thank you, Didi. And Didi, could you call me after the class, please? Thank you.
All right, Edie.
All right, we have come to the end of today's class, and I encourage everyone to participate in group works, projects coming up, and ED said individual assignment will be coming up, so prepare for that. And thank you for coming to class this evening. That will be all. Have a nice weekend. Please say thank you to ED in the chat box before you go. Right. Thank you, ED.